This is amazing.
Seasons may change, but the reaction to the incredible Great Smoky Mountain views from Pigeon Forge have stayed the same. Whether experiencing new attractions for the first time, like Dollywood's new Dropline ride, or finding new favorites like the Titanic Museum, dozens of shows, the Big Wheel, and more, you'll make memories and see scenic mountain beauty that you'll cherish for years to come. Visit mypigeonforge.com now to plan your trip.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark. You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, it's Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? Yes, I miss you when we're not talking. All right, I have been promising this all week. My interview with my longtime friend, Wild. Now, I am going to run it in its entirety with no commercial break. So, I'm going to invite you to relax, sit back, and enjoy my conversation with longtime friend, United States Navy SEAL Wild. And he does introduce himself, and it's quite interesting how he describes himself. So I will let the interview speak for itself and let you relax, sit back, and enjoy it. All right, this is Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? You know, I miss you when we're not talking. Now, wait, I'm not alone. I'm joined by a very special longtime friend who I will just call Wild, which that is his call sign. How you doing today, Wild?
I'm doing great, Jessie. Thanks for having me on your show.
I've been trying to get you on the air for some time, darling.
Well, it's always a multitasking situation when I get involved with things.
All right, so what would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about you other than the fact that you're a longtime friend?
What specifically would you like me to...
Why would I want you? What kind of experience and knowledge do you have that would make me want to bring you on my show?
Well, I would probably think that you were probably referring to some of my past experiences and service to our country.
Yeah? Would you like to tell people what title you earned?
Well, not to go into too far of specifics, but I was home-based out of Coronado for quite a few years.
And I believe you earned the Trident.
Well, that is something that I wear on the left side of my chest.
So you earned the title United States Navy SEAL.
That would be correct.
Just wanted to spell it out for the listeners, because I swear a few of them live under rocks.
We keep low.
I'm not referring to ones like you. I'm referring to ones that are stupid enough to email me about things like TAPS.
Yes, well, that is definitely a situation that no family wants to hear.
I understand that, and like I said, I've been there, done that, and no desire to go again, my dear friend.
I know for sure.
All right.
But just to kind of let you know a little bit more, is that I was a shallow water insurgence diver, and once again based out in Coronado. A lot of my brothers know the Strand very well.
Spend some time on the grinder, did you?
Yes, definitely.
Can't earn that trident without it.
There's a little bit of work to that, yes.
I think that's enough background information. So we've been discussing off-air a lot of different situations, and I know you are a listener to my show. Now, I mentioned to you off-air that I think we're headed to military conflict with North Korea. And you had an entirely different opinion that kind of took me back. Do you remember what that opinion was?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't you tell the listeners, clue them in?
Well, I think at the time we were still rattling sabers with North Korea. And in the events that have happened since I served, which was quite a few years ago, just to fill you in, or your listeners in, I was actually involved in the Persian Gulf War, which was my commander-in-chief was President Reagan. And I know a little bit about the animal, and that's Iran and Iraq. And I have personally left part of myself in that part of the world. And I believe what you're asking is, why did I say that North Korea was actually a test bed for what I believe is our possibly more of a factor of possible conflict, and that would be Iran.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at. Was I said we're going to end up having to bash North Korea, and you said, nope, we're going to go to war with Iran. And
go ahead. Sorry.
And that just set me back on my heels. So why did you say we're going to end up in a conflict with Iran? And although I do believe they're a test bed, North Korea is the test bed.
I would just, on my personal involvement and understanding of the culture, I would just believe that Iran is definitely a situational format that is pretty much looking through the eyeglass, as it may be, and watching what we actually proceed with on the situation of Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un, or KJU, is not exactly a friendly force. In fact, just last night they conducted their 6th nuclear test.
Yes, it definitely was reported, and that was just this morning, wasn't it?
Oh, dark 30.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Now, I've made the assertion on air, and I'm still working on the puzzle pieces to put it together completely, that when President Obama essentially paid a ransom for Americans, now we won't get into my hatred of that, which, unless you would like to go there, that he essentially funded North Korea's nuclear program. What do you think about the fact that I think paying Iran funded North Korea?
Well, I do believe that there are a lot of different forces that are working together, and they're all in the pot together. So in all aspects, as far as what our previous commander did, Obama, technically that is something that really is above my pay grade. But at the same time, I as well had concerns about what actually facilitated that billions of dollars to be shuffled to the Iran country, if you want to put it that way.
Now, do you believe that Iran is a state sponsor of terror?
They have been definitely a state sponsor of terror, yes. I believe Iran has but one specific reason, and that is to destroy Israel and destroy the United States of America.
Well, I actually wholeheartedly agree with you. And I'm not sure I've ever said it so plainly on air, but I do agree with you. In fact, they have recently begun funding not just Hezbollah, but they've made up with Hamas.
Correct. And as you know, I believe you know that I was in Israel, in country, there just recently, not, well, I should say in 2009, and spent a little bit of time there learning about Israel. And I certainly was enlightened, as it may be.
Now, just for clarification, in 2009, you were there as a civilian, correct?
Correct.
All right.
So I got to enjoy it as what you would call a tourist. So it was not on any specific responsibility as far as government.
Just wanted to clarify that for the listeners because, well, you did mention your background, so just wanted to let them know you were gone by that point. Although I would have to say you believe that your oath never expires.
Never.
Well, brother, what do you think about our dear old friend, and as I call him on the show, quackers? Do you think we're going to have to use the military option?
Well, from what I've been able to kind of get as far as any kind of feedback or information, and not to put anybody's lives in danger, I would say that specifically for this kind of interaction or deployment, there still has to be quite a bit of equipment that needs to be in place. So either it's going to be moved swiftly and quietly, or it's going to come as a shock and awe. If you remember the situation in the 2000s.
I know I sure do, and I believe you are referring to Gulf One when George H.W. Bush lit up the skies over Kuwait and Iraq like it was daylight.
Right.
And I believe this was the most common sound heard then.
That's correct.
So, if you were the one sitting up there in good old Five Sides, and I know you're not, you're out of the game on a professional level, so to speak, would you, if you had to pick between a covert insertion or a shock and awe, what do you think would be the best way to deal with North Korea?
Well, really, I think what needs to be brought to light is that there has to be some kind of leadership change in that specifics, because technically you can't have a loose cannon running around with nuclear weapons.
I agree with you there. A loose cannon running around with nuclear weapons isn't good for any country in the world, especially when they have an ICBM that they have proven can reach the continental United States. Now, we don't know for sure if that missile can actually carry a payload yet. And on the latest open source information, so I'm not telling tales out of school, it was in the press wild. I saw a report that said the re-entry vehicle disintegrated as the rocket was coming back down. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't know how hard it would be to correct that kind of problem, but I don't know how close they are to fixing it. How close?
Well, once again, I'm sorry. Go ahead. On that particular factor of conversation, definitely I'm not going to profess that I am any way knowledgeable of ballistics, especially intercontinental. But in all technicality, that's something that definitely has to be corrected if it's going to be a threat. And I just don't think it's there yet.
I have to say, I hope and pray you're right. But with a lunatic like that at the helm, who's willing to sacrifice anything, including his own people. I'm not sure how long it's going to be before Quackers has corrected that problem, because I have a feeling if it's not corrected at his timetable to his satisfaction, heads will literally start rolling.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Dunford, and I've played this audio clip many times, so I'm not going to replay it at this point, has said that war on the Korean Peninsula is not unimaginable, but it would be horrific. Do you think there is a way that we can do this without losing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of lives? Because I don't think North Korea respects a sanction, and I don't think all the sanctions in the world are going to stop them.
Yes, I would have to agree. The biggest point of knowing or focusing here is that Korea and the United States have never came to a conclusion or the closing of the Korean War. So with that impact, in all aspects, really, it's the leadership over there that is actually, driving this particular, scenario.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that we need the aspects of support to really, what's the best way to put this to your listeners?
Open a can of whoop ass?
Yeah. Well, we really need some tough, leadership to walk on in there and clean the slate is what's got to be done. And excuse me. And what it comes down to is China has to basically be the driving deterrent of what North Korea is trying to do.
Well, China has said that if we are attacked and we retaliate, they will not get involved. If we do a preemptive strike, they will get involved. How does that sit with you?
Well, hopefully it doesn't come to an actual interaction to that particular realm, as it may be, of conflict.
Now, in recent times, and I'm just going back a week, 10 days, something like that. I don't have the exact date in front of me, and I'm not about to try and pull it up. North Korea launched a ballistic missile over Japan. It actually crossed Japanese territory. Now, a couple of facts I want to bring out. It was high enough that it actually did not violate Japanese airspace, but it did set off all their warning systems in Japan that there was a missile incoming. Then,
yes.
Prior to that, we had the 3 short-range things that KJU essentially splashed into the ocean, and he is threatening Guam. Do you think he is off his rocker enough to actually try and attack Guam?
Well, Guam itself is a force of its own. As far as the base itself is an air base for the Pacific, and it's one of our largest operational bases in that area, other than South Korea and of course wherever else we're deployed. And I don't want to go into specifics because these particular men and women are in harm's way with the situational problem with North Korea.
But do you think Kim Jong-un is crazy enough to actually attack Guam?
Well, I still don't see the logistics there yet.
He's got the missiles with the range. He's proven he's a little bit off his rocker. Now, if he actually attacks Guam, I have a feeling we're not going to sit back and threaten sanctions in the UN. As much as I love Nikki Haley and her sanctions talk, I just don't see us sitting back if he actually put something over Guam or on Guam or anywhere within the international, within Guam's territorial waters. I don't see us sitting back on our heels. Do you?
No, it's the same situation of what happened to my brothers and sisters and that would be Pearl Harbor.
I'd have to say, if he's actually crazy enough to attack Guam, it's on like Donkey Kong.
I agree.
Now, I'm not asking you to put anybody in harm's way or give out any information that you shouldn't, because we all know you've got more information than you should stuck in your head, and I would never want to put a serviceman or woman in harm's way. Now, would I, Wild?
No. That's why we have remained good friends and definitely share the same values.
All right. For those who are on the Korean Peninsula right now, the men and women in uniform that are over in Guam, Japan, and Korea, they're over in this region. They're watching Quackers and all his nonsense up close and personal. How high is the quote-unquote pucker factor over there? How high are the tensions? What's the stress level like?
Well, I'm going to say it is definitely, I'm trying to keep the filter on, but we could probably make washers.
So it's pretty high. I'd have to say some of the higher ups over there are probably not sleeping so well, because it would come to them to make that decision.
Absolutely.
Now, Iran has recently started building weapons factories in Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. Now you tie in, I'm going back to my Middle East scorecard, so just a quick reminder for the listeners. We're going to start with Syria. I always do. Although, John, you could probably do my scorecard for me, but I'll do it just because I got it off the tip of my tongue. President Bashar al-Assad is propped up by none other than Russia and Iran. Iran and Russia are trading partners with North Korea. And, of course, North Korea's big brother is China. That's the thumbnail version of this. Iran has started building weapons factories over in Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. And again, Wild, I got this as open source. It was all in the media. I don't pick on people to tell me stuff they shouldn't. If I can't Google it, it doesn't go on air. Now,
correct. I understand.
That being said, my thought, and I've been playing with these chess pieces for a while, and this is just speculation and thought. Iran is going to let North Korea kick it off and make the first punch, and then they're going to start acting a fool as well and try and come in from the backside and start causing more issues. What do you think?
Well, that was kind of my view of what I believe is what Iran is actually doing, is watching how the cards hit the table.
So do you think the best way of dealing with Iran is to flatten North Korea and just end the Korean War, for lack of a term, once and for all?
That would definitely set a precedent, yes.
And just to remind my listeners, there never was a peace treaty signed for the Korean War. It is under a ceasefire.
That's correct.
Have you ever been to the DMZ, Wild?
I have not been to the DMZ, but I have been through multiple countries around in that area.
I have actually visited. Now, I visited the DMZ as a tourist. Yes, the USO does run tours up to the DMZ. And what I found fascinating was, of course, the whole time you're up there, North Korea is watching everybody that comes and goes. You are told this in advance. And you are told that if you are not comfortable with this, do not take this tour. But what I found fascinating was the fact of the men and women on that line, for lack of a term, in front of them all. The men and women at the DMZ. They're the ones, I would think, would be the most rattled by all this noise. But yet, they're calm, they're cool, they're calculated, and they show no fear. Is that just their military training, or what?
As far as the military personnel?
Yep.
Well, yes. When you take that oath to our country as a service member, your prime objective is to protect and serve the country of the United States and its allies. So if that clarifies a little bit more, while you look at the attitudes of our men and women in the uniform, then specifically you're looking at a representative of the United States of America.
Well, I'd have to say there are some awesome men and women who wear that uniform.
All branches make one team. That's correct.
Now, back to Iran. I believe if they have not already written that check to North Korea to purchase the ICBM technology and possibly the nuclear warhead technology, they will. Is that kind of what you think's going on here?
I would have to say that I would probably have to agree with that statement.
Now, what I found fascinating at the second ICBM launch, and I don't know if you heard this particular episode, but the day of the ICBM launch, a few hours after the launch, a diplomatic delegation left North Korea and went to Iran. Now, they were there for Iran's version of the presidential inauguration, and at the same time, there was a Syrian delegation in North Korea. What kind of conclusions could you draw from just that information? Conclusions, speculation?
Well, I would have to say there's just a lot of bad people in a bad place right now. I mean, that would be my honest opinion.
Do you think those diplomatic exchanges are as benign as the media would lead us to believe?
I'm sure we're not getting the full story, but I would certainly have to say that they're not working in the interest of the United States.
I'd have to agree with that, and I'd have to say that most of these exchanges are probably cover for something much more sinister. Now,
very possible.
Trump has what I consider an excellent Secretary of Defense in Secretary Mattis. He is a Marine's Marine. He knows what it's like to be in these rough places, and he understands it takes rough men ready to do tough things to defend our nation. Are you with me so far?
Yeah, every decision of a conflict is never a known outcome or a smooth transition in any way, correct?
All right, so Mattis has come out and said, while Trump is pushing us to actually do something against North Korea, Mattis is trying to hold tight on those reins and pull him back. Yet Mattis did agree to bomb Syria with 59 Tomahawk missiles for their use of chemical weapons. And then a few weeks after that, Mattis unleashed Moab in Afghanistan. Now, obviously,
correct.
These are things that cannot be hidden. These are things that the whole world knew about. Do you think that that sent the message to Iran and North Korea that there was a new sheriff in town?
Well, I would have to certainly say that with President Trump leading the United States with decisions, tough decisions, technically, yeah, there is a new leadership in comparison of what it was for the last 8 years.
And you know I don't discuss U.S. politics, so we're not going to get too far into the weeds on this, but I'm somewhat surprised, and I'd be interested in your reaction, that Iran and North Korea didn't take a step back when we actually struck Syria and unleashed Moab, and didn't look at things and say, maybe we don't want to push this too far. But it doesn't seem to have had any impact. What's your reaction?
Well, once again, that is probably a political view, but I'm sure that with that particular trying to grasp the right form of this, with that particular action, I'm sure the leadership, which is not that stable in Iran or North Korea, technically they took note of it, but they're not going to show any weakness on their side either, because in those regimes and societies, they do not show weakness. So if that kind of redirects the way that you were thinking of what the response should have been, as far as after Moab was sent and dropped and 52 Tomahawk missiles, basically, yes, they took note of it, but they're not going to show weakness, and they're not going to show any sign of retreat.
What do you think it would take to get North Korea to back down from its current course of nuclear weapons and ICBM technology?
Well, first of all, funding has to be reduced. But second of all, I think, and this is open source information, is that South Korea is our front base there. And I wouldn't be surprised if something on the Syrian level, as far as an action, might be an option.
So something like sending a bunch of Tomahawks into North Korea might be what it would take to get North Korea to back down, because I have a feeling all the talk and screaming at the UN and all the talk and screaming about sanctions just isn't going to stop anything, because I don't know that you can cut off that funding from Iran.
Well, didn't they get $165 billion from us?
Something like that.
So technically the funding's already there, but we're getting into politics. So what I'm thinking is that South Korea will probably be the next mover.
And for those who aren't aware, we actually have to have South Korea's permission to launch anything directly against North Korea, because it would be their people that would suffer the most.
Yeah, they would be the initiator of the action, correct.
Now, let's get back to the Middle East for just a moment. What role do you think Bashar al-Assad plays in all this? I mean, I view him as a puppet of Russia at this point. He does not really control his own country anymore.
Unfortunately, yeah, that is the status there. They are basically a tentacle of Russia. Yeah, correct.
And do you think that Bashar al-Assad could or would start harming our forces over in the Middle East, who are over there taking out Daesh, ISIS, ISIL, same song, 3 different names? Do you think if we started something with North Korea, Bashar al-Assad would start trying to attack our forces that are over there working to defeat terrorism?
Well, unfortunately, any conflict and action that is initiated always comes with consequences. So specifically, by reducing our forces, by spreading them thinly throughout the territories, is definitely an advantage. But I believe Trump is working on making sure that we are reinforcing our whole military. So in retrospect, right now, we are vulnerable because of the reduction in force that we have had to endeavor for the last 8 years. And of course, the command structure has been changed due to politics. And specifically, Trump has a lot of work to make sure that our military is supported and has the availability and ability to take care of the task at hand. And personally, I have noted and seen quite a bit of movement in my area. I do work in a satellite government support realm.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to go into details because that could get both of us in trouble there, Wild. But I also heard someone say that they don't think we're going to do anything against what they're watching for in South Korea would be them to pull out the non-essential personnel from the diplomatic missions and the families of the United States Armed Forces that are stationed there. Do you think that would be a significant sign that something big is afoot?
Well, yeah, anytime you see an exodus of, important personnel, government-supported personnel, diplomats, things like that, yeah, that usually means that, there's a heads up. We went to a different level of action.
Now, speaking of diplomatic stuff and pulling people back and pulling people out, U.S. and Russia are at this, well, we're going to close your presence here. We're going to shut your presence there down. Kind of doing it back to this tit-for-tat thing that's reminiscent of the Cold War. Do you think we are in essentially a second Cold War with Russia?
I can't really speak to that because I haven't followed really the politics with Russia. Once again, my specialty was during the regime of the Persian Gulf War, and I wouldn't want to put any words in any other aspect, as it may be, of another superpower. But to break it down, get to brass tacks with Korea, I mean, we're just dealing with a madman. I mean, the guy, he's a aired dictator, and basically he's a loose cannon. That's all I can say about this guy.
What do you think it's going to take to get that loose cannon's attention so he changes his calculus, or don't you think that's ever going to happen until he has something like this dropped on his head?
Well, it's a hard decision. And once again, I certainly cannot forecast what's going to happen, but I do believe that South Korea will probably be the catalyst.
All right. Well, after the 6th North Korean nuclear test, President Trump tweeted out, and let me pull up the exact tweet. And like I said, there is no way of talking about all this without bringing up some U.S. politics. President Trump tweeted out, South Korea's finding, as I have told them, that their talk of appeasement with North Korea will not work. They only understand one thing, ! And he didn't state what that one thing is. However, I'm inclined to say the only thing that would back North Korea down is use of force. I think these shows of force are all very well and good, but I don't think sanctions or shows of force are going to back down quackers or the madman of the North. What do you think there?
I'd have to agree. I mean, unfortunately, it's not a perfect world. So in retrospect to that, war's ugly, no matter how you play it out. Any conflict is a situation that is not to the benefit, usually, of either side. But when you got a guy that is not reversing course and changing his ideology as far as what he is, supporting, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be pretty, and it's definitely not going to be good for him.
Well, I think that is well said. So is there anything you wanted to bring up that we haven't touched on today, Wild?
Yeah, I certainly would. One of the things that I would like to just share with your listeners is that I have just spent the last week down in Texas, and I would just like to put a shout out to all those heroes, first responders, and individuals, just general public, that are out there helping with one of the worst storms that has hit that area in 50 years. And it's a mess down there. And certainly, if anybody is able to assist with I guess to put it in perspective, a reputable help source, certainly, it would be, I'm sure, appreciated. But, it is a mess down there.
Well, I've got to say the only two reputable charitable organizations, or as you put them, help sources that I particularly go for, are either mercury1.org or the American Red Cross.
Correct.
And I don't know if you know about Mercury One, but we can talk about them off the air.
Sure. Well, I've actually been here assisting. Basically, I live north of Texas, but I've been down here for this week and assisting with recovery.
Brushing off those old skills and putting them to good use, huh, Wild?
Well, a current never stays in one place.
And you are certainly a moving force. Well, Wild, I thank you very much for joining me on the air today. And I'm not going to ask you for social media contact information out of respect for your privacy, but if anybody has a question or comment for Wild, they can email me at the station at Jessie's POV, Jessies POV at KLRNradio.com, and I'll be more than happy to pass it on to him. How's that sound there, Wild?
That sounds perfect to me.
They want to get in touch with you, they can reach out to me. All right.
Correct.
And I am going to take a commercial break, and I will see you on the other side.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
Well, I really enjoyed my chance to chat with Wild. Longtime friend. Gotta extend to him an on-air Wild. I know you're listening. Or if you didn't catch it live, you will on Memorex. Thank you for your service. And that goes for one of my favorite chat room buddies, Ron. And he also wanted me to extend his thanks for your service to our nation as well. Now, got a couple little notes before I wrap up my show for the week. I can't believe it's Thursday and I'm saying wrap for the week. But that's because tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, you tune in here, it will be Jessie's Coffee Shop. Yes, we will have another outstanding author on who will tell you all about their books and how that book came into being. Because, well, you've heard some of the same advice time and time again from many of the authors. There will be some drastic differences. All right, folks, I didn't make my usual top of the show announcement, so we're going to cover it now, and then I'm going to see my way out of here. First of all, I want to let you know that interview was pre-recorded on Sunday, right after the nuclear test. Now, couple other notes. Wild does not have social media. That's why I didn't bother asking him for it. And if he had it, he wouldn't have given it out anyway. He is a very private person. I was very privileged and honored to get him to join me on the air. It is, to the best of my knowledge, the first time he has ever done something of that nature. Now, for all of those of you who loved it, give you a hint. The more emails and comments and compliments I get, the more likely I am to be able to get Wild to come back and join me on the air, and I'd like to have him back a little more often. All right. I think that about does it for tonight. I think Wild said everything I wanted to say. And you regular listeners know what's coming. You new listeners, fasten your seatbelt. Hang on for the ride. And just as a reminder, before I sign off, you can always find me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. And you can email me at the station, jessiespov@klrnradio.com. And on that note, yeah, you know what's coming. I'm out of here!
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
How can you achieve and maintain business growth? Harvard Business School Executive Education is now accepting applications for a new program, Driving Profitable Growth, taking place in Boston from October 25th through the 28th. This program focuses on business expansion and organizational growth strategies that can lead your company into the future. Learn more about this 3-day program for senior leaders by visiting hbs.me/growth. That's hbs.me/growth.